Thank you. We have a namaste to everybody. I think we have a quorum, and I've heard a lot of good interest on this topic. Thank you all for joining us this Friday night, and thank you, Omaji, for joining us early Saturday morning. So today's topic is an update on CAA and the other aspects of Nimittekam that are on. We have actually been. I think last time that the first time that I hosted you, Omiji, was in June last year. And so it's been almost a year. It's been a journey. And I think CAA was introduced in the parliament and passed as a resolution and as an act in 2019. And after that, we know the kind of protests and whatnot that happened. But eventually, I think we also faced that sort of the tumultuous time here, as well as the city resolutions were passed. A lot of media reports came out on CAA. But due to COVID, there was a lull in the notification of CAA and implementation of CAA. I think we are at a pivot point right now. Nimittekam also has had a journey over this 1 year where, they have also launched, other Dalit projects and were, highlight. I think those are some of the highlights that maybe Omiji you can share, and also some of the things that are happening on the ground in terms of the rehabilitation of the Pakistani refugees in India. So I haven't introduced you, but I think everyone here knows that Dr. Omendra Ratnu is a founder of Nimittekam, and he's also, a doctor, a surgeon, and he has also been writing very interesting books on history. But Omiji, I will hand over the floor to you to give us the latest on CAA and Nimittekam. Welcome.
Namaste. Thank you for this Zoom call so that we can educate our fellow Hindus living abroad about the civilizational war we find ourselves in, whether we like it or not. A generic statement before I actually go to the whole thing about Nimittekam and our work with Pakistani Hindus and Sardars. A lot of noise is being created about the leadership of Modi ji and Amit Shah and BJP and others, especially in context of the Bengal violence and all, and that they did not do much. It's sad, and it is a kind of an amazement to me that educated people do not know that law and order is a state subject. And when a government is so recently been elected by people, there is no way that the center can invoke Article 256 unless there is mayhem. And that is why, Richa, I'm sure you are already so intimately associated with me in the project of random, unceasing, low-level scattered violence, that the acronym called ROLS. And that is why I've been crying about it for the past 4 years, that a violence which is not overt, which doesn't create anarchy, which does not disturb public order, is the most dangerous kind of violence, because you're still losing people, you're losing men, but nothing much can be done about it because it is a subliminal, below the radar kind of violence. And these thugs have mastered that art of that kind of violence. Hindus have to come up with a local reaction to that, but a very, very sad scenario of educated, committed Sanatani Hindus abusing and questioning Modi ji on why he was not able to stop Bengal violence. It's like, why was Modi not able to stop the Gulf War? It's that simple, to deduce. Having said that, I'll start my thing about this whole Nimittekam and the CAA. Do we know that 8 city councils of America have passed resolutions against the Citizenship Amendment Act? What were we doing while these preparations were going on? Because when we took cognizance, when some people in Chicago, some Hindus in Chicago contacted me, and Richa, you were intimately associated with that project as well. When we provided the documentation, the videos, the statistics, the data, and the resolution was dropped. Why couldn't that happen in the rest of the country, in the rest of the US? Why is the Western society so ill-informed about CAA? Because the Hindu society itself is ill-informed about the CAA, number one. Number two, there is a huge amount of sloth that consumes us. कश्मीर पे अगर कश्मीर पर भारतीय उच्चायोग के सामने अगर डेमोन्स्ट्रेशंस करने होंगे 2-4 हजार पाकिस्तानी पहुंच जाएंगे. और मैं अमेरिका में खूब ट्रैवल करता हूं, मतलब फोन कर करके 10 लोगों को इकट्ठा करना भी बहुत कठिन हो जाता है. तो अगर हमारी लेवल ऑफ पॉलिटिकल अवेयरनेस ये है तो ये युद्ध बहुत कठिन, बहुत रक्त रंजित, और मुझे नहीं लगता कि हम इस युद्ध को जीत भी पाएंगे अगर हम इस तरह से लड़े तो, क्योंकि हम तो खेल में ही नहीं है. वी आर नॉट इन द गेम. अधिकतर आप हिंदुओं से बात करोगे, पॉलिटिक्स डजंट इंटरेस्ट मी. कैन देयर बी अ मोर लेम स्टेटमेंट देन दिस? इट्स लाइक द टैक्सेशन लॉज डोंट इंटरेस्ट मी. अरे भाई, इफ taxation laws don't interest you, but you will have to pay the tax anyway. It's like, I'm not interested in corona, but corona is very interested in you, because corona के सर्वाइवल ही उससे है. Politically अगर हम लोग अवेयर नहीं होंगे तो कैसे काम चलेगा? CAA was a master stroke by Modi ji, and he put so much political capital at risk for these forsaken people. Today when we talk to Hindus in Jaipur and Rajasthan, they say, oh, पाकिस्तान में हिंदू बच्चे हैं. 1,100,00,000 हिंदू जिस देश में रह रहे हैं, राक्षसों के बीच में, यहाँ का हिंदू, और अधिकतर हिंदू बोलते हैं कि पाकिस्तान में हिंदू बच्चे हैं. पॉपुलेशन इन्वर्जन पर, डेमोग्राफिक इन्वर्जन पर आउटरीच करवा लो सब हिंदुओं से, लेकिन इन 1 करोड़ को पाकिस्तान को, 2 करोड़ बांग्लादेश के हिंदू, 3 करोड़ तो हिंदू बने बनाए हैं. आपकी घर वापसी नहीं करवानी इनकी. You just have to import them, and Modi ji did that when he passed, when he got the CAA passed in the Indian Parliament. Do we realize the civilizational implication of such a vital step? It's like, I'll give you an analogy, maybe that will make you understand this much more, with much more clarity. Canada passes a law that America में जो Hispanics हैं उनका persecution हो रहा है, तो हम उनको citizenship दे देते हैं. There will be a war between US and Canada if such a law is passed in Canada. Do we understand the implication of the Indian state passing Citizenship Amendment Act? और ये जो नकटे, ये जो ढीठ और बेशर्म किस्म के लोग पाकिस्तान और बांग्लादेश में बैठे हैं, इनको कोई शर्म नहीं आई. ये विषय नहीं था कि एक दूसरे राज्य को, एक दूसरी स्टेट को CAA पास करना क्यों पड़ा. कि कोई ग्राउंड्स तो थे ना, जब हिंदुओं के, सरदारों का, क्रिश्चियंस का, जैनियों का, पारसियों का परसिक्यूशन हो रहा है. वो विषय नहीं बना. करोड़ों डॉलर्स बहाए गए, शाहीन बाग खड़े किए गए कि जी उसके अंदर मुसलमान क्यों नहीं है. कैन देयर बी अ मोर इडियोटिक एंड अ मोर एब्सर्ड आर्गुमेंट? A country partitioned on the base of religion, जिसको आपने इस्लाम के नाम पर बनाया. अब आप कह रहे हो कि हम तो भारत के अंदर सिटीजनशिप अमेंडमेंट एक्ट में हमें भी इंक्लूड किया जाए. पता नहीं किस तरह की दुनिया में हम लोग जीते हैं. तो मोदी जी का जो इतना बड़ा गैम्बल था, वो किस तरह से हमने वेस्ट किया और किस तरह हमने उसे डाइल्यूट होने दिया. That reflects on the entire religious, spiritual, social, and the caste leadership of Hindus. 80% of the beneficiaries of CAA are from the scheduled caste and the scheduled tribes. The Bhils, the Balai, Koli, मेघवाल, कोई बहुजन समाज पार्टी का, कोई दलित समाज का लीडर आकर के सीए के पक्ष में खड़ा हुआ? बल्कि instead they were all joining hands with these jihadis and serving them biryanis with the sardars of Gurdwara Rakabganj Sahib. So to conclude this prelude before I take on my presentation, what is the way out? The way out is there is none else except us. इसको अच्छी तरह से शीशे में खड़े होकर के अपने परिवार के साथ डिस्कस करके अपने चित्त में बिठा लीजिए कि कोई नहीं है हमारे अलावा यहाँ पर. We are the ones fighting it out because it is our necks and our daughters' honor that is online here. So stop looking at Modi. Let us stop looking at Amit Shah. Let us stop looking at the BJP. Let us stop looking at the Sangh and the Vishwa Hindu Parishad and be leaders within our own rights. Can each one of us go out and say, okay, I'm going to educate 10 fellow Hindus about what CAA is. I'm going to reach out to the local church and tell the Christian community, you fools, we are trying to protect you. Modi ji has included Christians in this CAA. मैं कल सोच रहा था आर्मीनिया का और अजरबैजान का, पता नहीं कौन सी कंट्री उससे झगड़ा हुआ था, कजाकिस्तान, आई डोंट नो कौन सी कंट्री थी, जो एक मुसलमान थी एक ईसाई थी. नो क्रिश्चियन वर्ल्ड केम टू सेव आर्मीनियंस. मार डाला उनको, वो जगह खाली करा ली. सो द क्राइसिस इज ग्लोबल इन द सेंस दैट जिस तरह से हिंदू लीडरशिप पैरालाइज्ड है, वैसे ही क्रिश्चियन लीडरशिप भी पैरालाइज्ड है. सो यू एंड आई हैव टू गो आउट एंड टेल द ट्रूथ ऑफ दिस एक्ट to people. It works. In the last 10 years of my activism on this issue, I've seen it works. People have changed their minds. Those who were hard committed leftists have become right-wingers or at least neutral, and they at least listen to us and they are sympathetically considering what Hindus are facing globally. So sorry for this long prelude. I think it was needed more than the dry and the raw statistics and data and the whole thing. And many of your friends would have already seen. And so these are some few thoughts on the current situation of the Hindu-Muslim civilizational conflict going on in the subcontinent. So if we can have the presentation. Richa.
Yes. Sure. Yes, Omiji, and I may also add that the CAA, whenever we have tried to communicate it, either to the media or to schools or various people in the political circles, also the communication is so clearly humanitarian. The law is so totally for human rights that people completely change their stance, except for those who are hell-bent on the misinformation and disinformation campaign. Everyone else comes on board. So you're right. If we all get together and at least share our points of view, it's definitely going to help. And can everyone see the presentation?
Yes.
Great. So Miji, I'll go ahead to the next slide.
Okay, thank you. So this is the genocide. I do not get into the bookish definition of genocide, but it is one estimate that post-partition, I mean, I don't even call it partition, I call it transfer of power now. On 15th of August 1947, power was transferred from Gora Sahibs to Bhura Sahibs, and nothing much has changed as far as the civilizational independence of Bharat is concerned. So on 15th of August 47, with the transfer of power, till date, it's an estimate that 1 crore Hindus have been killed, converted, or kicked out of Pakistan and Bangladesh. 3 million Hindus died in 1971 Bangladesh independence war alone. And it's been a systemic genocide, something that I was talking about, random, unceasing, low-level scattered violence, which we will talk in one of the slides. But this whole thing is deeply embedded into the transgenerational trauma that we Hindus have been experiencing for the past 1400 years. It's not that this is something which has come up suddenly, or the animosities have creeped up suddenly. It's been going on for 1400 years. Uh, and we Hindus are the only people on this globe who have never subjugated, besides the Christians of Spain and Europe, who for an interim of about a couple of 100 years were subjugated, but then they came back and they bounced back and they evicted their land from the Islamic invasion. But Hindus are the bulwarks, actually the real bulwarks who stopped them in the subcontinent. Yes, we have lost Afghanistan, we have lost Pakistan, we have lost Bangladesh, but a huge chunk of the Vedic Bharatvarsha still remains with us, because our glorious forefathers fought these marauders, and we are still, the fight is still on. The two nation theory was completely botched up by the pygmies of Congress. It was like a surgery was done, but an amputation was done, but the cancer still stayed. It's mind-boggling that the only leader who questioned this the botched partition was Shri Baba Sahib Bhimrao Ambedkar. He said, when you're partitioning the country on the basis of religion, then why total exchange of population is not happening? And the consequence of that botched partition is that we have 1 crore Hindus in Pakistan and 15 crore Muslims in India, languishing and yearning for their own land. Next slide, please. So this is the scale of genocide that has happened in Pakistan. In the West Pakistan, Hindus used to be 15%, and they're now down to 2%. I usually avoid quoting these statistics because, first of all, the state of Pakistan cannot be trusted with an honest assessment of what the numbers are. They always fudge it. They try to show Hindus in lesser numbers. And a very sinister thing that they do with the census is that they show scheduled castes and upper caste Hindus as separate. So a fall of population from 35% to 8% in Bangladesh. There are about 8 to 10 million Hindus in Pakistan living today, largely in Sindh, some of them in southern districts of Rahim Yar Khan in Punjab. There are about close to 20,000 Sardars living in and around Peshawar and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, that is the northwest frontier province, and approximately 5 million Christians. Most of them are Valmikis who converted to Christianity, Valmiki Hindus. Whatever be the case, they converted because they thought that they could survive the onslaught of jihad by converting to Christianity. But as we know, the Christian leadership also never came to their aid. Partly some European Commission raising some noise here and there. Next slide, please. So this is the European Parliament Committee report, which I lay hand on about a couple of years ago. In May 2019, they openly came up with a report that 1,000 minority girls are picked every year in Pakistan. That comes down to 3 underage minority girls picked every day. Let that sink in. 3 minority girls, out of whom majority are Hindus, are picked every single day. And most of these girls are the scheduled caste and the scheduled tribes, the Bhils, Meghwals. If you follow Rahat Austin on Twitter, or if you follow even my timeline on Twitter, almost every day we post videos of these girls being picked up and converted and married off to people 4 times or 5 times their age. The constant threat of conversion looms on Hindus in Pakistan. Ever since the borders were closed in March 2020 because of COVID, till date, at least 3,000 Hindu families in Pakistan have been converted to Islam. So while we are merrily going around with our lives, our people are being taken away. And understand this, please. I think I think Swami Vivekananda said that a Hindu converted out of the Hindu fold is not only one Hindu less, but one enemy more. There is no social status for Hindu marriage, but this got rectified in 2016 when they passed the Hindu Marriage Act. But we use this information to show the world that the entire community of Hindus was not even granted a social status of the Hindu marriage. The Hindu marriage was not even legally recognized in Pakistan. What is the implication? The implication is that a married Hindu woman, even if she's 30, 35 years of age, she can be picked up by any Muslim landlord if she's good looking and if he wants to have her, if he wants to punish her. Because legally, she's not even married. So in 2016, Sindh passed the Hindu Marriage Act, and then Hindu marriages started getting legalized. It's part of the school curriculum that Hindu gande hote hain aur Hindu hamare dushman hain. They are teaching this to their children in the schools. And rich Hindus are also not safe. I get calls almost on a weekly basis from rich Hindus who are very rich. They are merchants of dal and rice and big landowners, because at the time of partition, zamindari was abolished in India, but not in Pakistan. So Hindu landlords remain with their lands, but it's now getting pretty difficult for them to remain Hindus. Their children are get kidnapped, they themselves get kidnapped, and they pay huge ransom to get free. Next slide. Why? Even my wife asked me that what is so big deal about Pakistani Hindus? And then I sat down to write this slide. What is it that why is it so critical for us to save Pakistani Hindus? As I said, a lot of Hindus fret on the social media. Oh, Hinduओं की जनसंख्या कम हो रही है, हिंदुओं की जनसंख्या कम हो रही है, हम बच्चे पैदा करो. I don't know. I mean, what? I have two children. One is, I can't even dream of asking my son to produce more children for Hinduism's sake. I don't know where this idea comes from that we can ask our children to produce more children. I think that's one of the most stupid suggestions anybody can ever give to the Hindu community. For demographic inversion, there are three solutions which I offer. I'm diverting a bit because this is a very important issue that hurts the sensibilities and sensitivities of Hindus. Number one, you have 3 crore Hindus in Pakistan and Bangladesh. Bring them in, you get at least, you stabilize the Hindu population at least for the next 10 years. Number two, there are 4 million orphan children in Bharat who are fodder for Christian and Islamic missionaries. So if Hindus were running orphanages in almost every state capital, and if left to me in every district, these 4 million children can any day be raised as Hindus on Gayatri Mantra and on Vedic culture, and they are ready-made Hindus for us. So that's the second option for us. And third option is a little complicated, that we convince and we counsel every fertile couple to have one child extra and give it to Gurukulas. I have already talked to 2 Dharmacharyas who agreed to this plan, but I have not yet been able to convince any Hindu couple to give me an extra child. So these are the 3 ways to fight demographic inversion. The most critical way of fighting the demographic inversion happening in the subcontinent is to salvage these 3 crore Hindus who we lose in the next 10 years. I cannot tell you the number of calls I get from these Hindus on a daily basis. Some are crying, some are howling, some are angry, some are abusing, that if India will not save us, if the Hindu community, global Hindu community will not save us, then we will convert. We have no option. We have no businesses left. Our children are being kidnapped. So it becomes a test case for global Hindu and Christian leadership if they cannot get their act together and save these millions of Hindus and Christians. I don't know what else to say. In 24/7 era of television, we have every information available. We know what's going on. Another windfall benefit of this saving them will be that we expose the hollow claims of the meme Bhim Ekta and the Khalistani narrative. The biggest sufferers of jihad today in Pakistan are our scheduled caste and scheduled tribe community. What meme Bhim Ekta are they talking about? I live with these people, when I go to the Bhil community and Ambedkarites try to confuse them, then they question me कि भाई साहब हम पाकिस्तान से तो ये सोच के आए थे कि हम हिंदू बन के जिएंगे, यहाँ पर तो और भी बुरा हाल है. And I tell them कि Given a choice, would you like to go back? So they, no, we can't go back. I said, that's the thing. So when you have come to an ecosystem which gives you love, which gives you security, which gives you nourishment, then value it, preserve it, and fight for it. Be on the side of Sanatan Hindu Dharma. And I can very gladly tell you that in about 40 to 50,000 refugees that we are taking care of, we have inculcated this feeling of Sanatan Dharma so deeply that no Ambedkarite, no separatist, no Mool Nivasi philosophy is ever entertained. Then if we save these Hindus and Sikhs and take them out of Pakistan, these 2% Hindus and Sikhs of Pakistan give 10% taxes of that country. Imagine the economic jolt we will give to the state of Pakistan if these Hindus are taken out of that country. It's a very arduous task to take out rich Hindus, because whenever I get a call from a rich Hindu, he only tells me one thing. He only asks one thing, that हमारे पास यहाँ पर इतना पैसा है, हिंदुस्तान में कितना पैसा होगा, हम तो सड़क पे आ जाएंगे. And there's nothing that I can say to them except that धर्म बचाना है आपको, तो you will have to begin from zero. I know at least half a dozen doctors who were having a thriving practice in Pakistan, and they had to start from scratch. And because the Indian government doesn't recognize the degrees of Pakistan, they're still struggling. So my pranam and my naman to these Hindus who lose everything and come to Bharat. But the Hindu community has to start thinking strategically that if we take these Hindus out of Pakistan, we economically damage them irreparably. And the response by free world can, of course, be understood that if slavery, begar, conversions, kidnappings, murders, taking over of property is happening right under our noses, then can the free world turn a blind eye to this genocide? Next line. So why is the global community not recognizing? Why are Hindus? I think I just touched about it. This is a very important acronym: random, unceasing, low-level, scattered violence. This is the kind of violence which takes a very intelligent mind to decipher and to understand the pattern, because there is no pattern. It is a random. Anybody can become a jihadi at any moment. He could have a grudge with his wife, he would have fought with it at his office, and he can stab you. That's the kind of psychological instability we are talking about, because it is inculcated in the schools, in the family surroundings, in the house. The Dada Dadi don't teach them Ramayana and Mahabharata stories. They teach them that Kafir is our enemy and Kafir is wajibul qatl. He is worthy of being killed. So that's the kind of zombies you're dealing with. So there is no way a very intelligent community can decipher a pattern in this violence. It's a random, unceasing, because it has been going on for the last 1400 years, relentlessly going on. It started with Muhammad bin Qasim attacking Raja Dahir on Sindh. And ever since, it is going on today. It's low level, the most dangerous aspect of this violence. It's not an overt violence. It's a low level. You can, a grade C or a grade B BJP, RSS, Vish Hindu Parishad leader is picked up and murdered. And we do not know that, it's not that entire villages in Pakistan are burned down. They will pick up one girl from one village, then 100 kilometers away, they'll pick another girl. So only one family gets affected. If 100 families were to get affected, then the whole world would take notice. So the low-level violence is a very, very, very vile and hideous way of carrying on this violence, so that it always stays below the radar. I'll try to explain it to you by a reverse analogy, that when was it not low level? It, like Godhra. The pattern was broken. In Godhra, they burned 56 Hindus in one single day, and they saw that what response Hindu society gave. That is why, on that scale, the violence is never going to happen. Very laboriously, Richa was involved in the project. We have documented 200 Hindu murders ever since Modi ji became the Prime Minister in 2014. 200 RSS, Vishwa Hindu Parishad, BJP workers have been killed by Islamists in India alone. But again, it's a low-level violence. One family suffers, people forget about it. It's a small item in the local newspaper. Nobody talks about it. I went to channels, I went to people with this document. Nobody's interested in airing this on their channel. Pushpendraji very gratefully he acknowledged it, and he has been talking about it. Whatever, let me say, scattered. When we say scattered, it means there is no geographical locale to this violence. It can happen in San Bernardino one day. It can happen in Chicago. It can happen in Jaipur. It can happen in Karachi. It can happen in Kinshasa, Nigeria. There is no geographical domain of jihad. So Hindus will do well to learn this academic but a very existential philosophy of random, unceasing, low-level, scattered violence. And the bottom line of this violence is keep the violence enough that kafirs are never able to rest in peace. Never raise the violence to a level where kafirs get united and are forced to respond. The worst nightmare of jihadis is a united kafir ready to respond. So the civilized global leadership is confused because politicians by their nature are average kind of people. They are self-centered. Which is okay. They have to survive. Very few politicians are statesmanly or they have vision. So in the local Hindu leadership also, I've seen this confusion, and it took us 6-7 years to convince our leadership that there is no coexistence possible in Pakistan and Bangladesh, and extrication of these Hindus is the only solution. But because the leadership was confused, CAA took so much time to become a reality. Next slide.
On rules, if I may just add a couple things. One is that I think Sanjay Dikshit ji tried to cover it once. He did a presentation once. And secondly, I think in the United States, they have been working very hard to defund the police, some of the forces here, because I think we have some of the strongest police forces in our cities here and there has been, wherever there has been a defunding of the police, there has been a rise in random crimes. So, I think your theory and the acronym that you have devised really works very well, where the police force is not as strong.
Yeah, in general, the police force also is subservient to public opinion and the political will. So unless the global community, and most importantly, I'm a little concerned about the awareness of Hindus themselves. And I'm not talking about the leftist Hindus or the Dhimmi Hindus. I'm talking about the right-wing Hindus. Right-wing Hindus themselves are so ill-informed about this idea, and the amount of academic investment in studying this kind of violence is so little that we are actually not understanding. We still think ourselves to be the majority. There's that. We are not understanding that the majority-minority idea doesn't hold any logic in front of a marauding, murderous mafia, which will not stop at any level. Artificial borders created in 47 are not going to protect you, because आप शत्रु का बोध तो समझ, शत्रु की अंडरस्टैंडिंग ही नहीं है ना, हम तो शत्रु मान ही नहीं है उसको. इसी को तो हमारे शास्त्रों में शत्रु बोध कहा गया है. तो अगर आपको शत्रु बोध ही नहीं है पंचमक्कारों का, the mullah, missionary, Marxist, Macaulay Putra and media, तो फिर आप लड़ेंगे भी कैसे उनसे? The good news is that BJP put the whole thing in the election manifesto. Before 2014, I used to work with Pakistani Hindus, but absolutely under the radar, because working with Pakistani Hindus or Christians or anybody holding a Pakistani passport in India was a straight passport to the local jail and in charges of sedition. But when BJP picked it up, people like us became safe to work with, and notifications to minority refugees have been coming up on a pretty regular basis after 2014. The most significant was in 2016 when Rajnath Singh ji was the Home Minister, and he gave us the permission for 16 districts to grant citizenships if the local collectorate was satisfied about the documents, and this exact notification has been renewed about 10 days back, which is a cause of so much reverberation in the Indian society. When 13 more districts have been added to this, we'll talk about this. 9,000 citizenships have been granted, and this was up till 2019. Now my information is that the number of citizenships stands at 12,000. And with the notification of the MHA, which was issued about a couple of weeks earlier, 3,500 Hindus will get citizenship. So we are looking at about 15,000, 16,000 citizenships. However, if CA is not implemented, then all this will become useless. CAA alone will cause more than 50,000 citizenships happening countrywide. And the implication is that the more Hindus get citizenship here, the more hope 1 crore Hindus trapped in Pakistan get that one day we will be able to go to India and live a free life. So if CAA doesn't become a reality, I'm pretty sure that the rate of conversions of Hindus to Islam in Pakistan is going to quadruple, or like it's going to be a cascade effect. Villages after villages will convert. Mainstreaming of the issue happened because the BJP put this whole thing into the national manifesto, and today we are talking about this. So the BJP government has done a lot on this issue, a lot remains to be done by the Hindu community globally, and we have to put our heads together and to see what we need to do. There are no grudges against the BJP, except that the CAA should be notified now, and it should start delivering results. Next slide, please. So what is Nimittekam doing? We are running 5 offices in Jaipur, Jodhpur, Jaisalmer, Karnavati, which most of us know as Ahmedabad. We always call as Karnavati, and Delhi. We achieved about 4,000 citizenships in Rajasthan alone, because I need to update the slide. One very significant, it's a technical thing. I don't want to bore you with the technical thing, but just a brief touching on this. There are 3 different kinds of visas granted to Pakistani Hindus by the Indian Embassy in Rawalpindi. Number 1 is a visit visa, and the number 2 is a refugee visa, and the number 3 is a religious visa. Most of the Hindus, approximately 13,000 in Rajasthan alone, came here on religious visas because it's pretty easy to get, and it expires within 28 days. And these 30,000 Hindus overstayed, so they were illegal citizens. So after a lot of headbanging with the bureaucracy in Delhi, we have been able to get refugee status for these overstaying Hindu pilgrims, which is a major achievement for us. Otherwise, in the case of these pilgrims overstaying their pilgrim visa, they would all have been deported, and it would have been a huge loss, because a deported Hindu is a converted Hindu. The moment you deport a Hindu out of India, before landing in Pakistan, he's going to read Kalma and he's going to convert. So this is one thing that Nimittekam has been achieved, and I congratulate my staff in Jodhpur, especially Bhagchand Bhil, our Jodhpur coordinator, who was instrumental in getting this and convincing the local administration to send reminders and rejoinders to the MHA to get the refugee status for these pilgrims. We have been trying to give, the Nimittekam gives free medical aid to every minority Hindu and Sardar who comes in our contact, be it cardiology, ENT. I'm myself an ENT surgeon. My sister-in-law is an eye surgeon. My wife is a radiologist. We have gynecology, we have oncology, every service available absolutely free of cost to these minority refugees. Through the RTE, we give them free education, and seminars and workshops are held globally to raise awareness on this issue. Thank you. Next slide. We are in the civilizational conflict in which the war has, you can see the fire maybe a couple of kilometers away from your home, and we can be in this delusion that भाई मेरा घर तो अभी तक, मेरे घर तो आग नहीं आई है ना, मेरे घर अब तक आग नहीं आई है, तो मैं आप अपने घर पे बैठा रहूं. So I don't think that's a sign of an intelligent man saying that मेरे घर आग नहीं आई है. अगर 2 किलोमीटर आग आ चुकी है, और वो आग क्या है, दावानल है वो, it's a forest fire which is going to consume all of us unless we get our act together. And the solutions are pretty simple. I hope we get a chance to discuss it in the next I don't know how much time you have, but if we can talk about solutions, then a lot can be achieved by the Hindu Samaj globally. But if we continue in this stupor, bad mouthing Modi ji and Amit Shah ji and BJP for not doing enough, then I'm afraid we'll be wasting time and achieve nothing. Thank you very much for the patient hearing. If I have crossed a line or two, I apologize.
Thank you, Amiji. Thank you for the presentation. And I think, I probably want to ask the first question and then hand over to Ravinder ji. He has raised his hand also. So the question I had was about the recent notification. There seems to have been some laws in place for the refugees to get citizenship. Am I right? Or no?
Yeah, absolutely. The Indian Citizenship Act of the 1955 was passed by Nehru and his chamchas. So there is no reason that, the congressmen, not congressmen as in US, but the political party Congress here in India, and the jihadis and the leftists had to take to the streets on the CAA, because CAA was nothing but an amendment in the 1955 Citizenship Act passed by Congress and its chamchas. So we have to understand this, that we were unable to communicate it to the global community and to our own children, our own youth, our own people, that CAA is not a new law, it's just an amendment. Not a single beneficiary, not a single geographical locale has been admitted. If you read the 1955 Citizenship Act, it clearly states that the Hindus, the Sardar, the Christians, the Jains, the Parsis, and the Jews of Pakistan will be granted citizenship of India if they desire it. It was 1955 Citizenship Act was a direct consequence of 1950 Nehru Liaquat Pact, in which after the mayhem of transfer of power in 1947, the so-called partition, when Hindus and Muslims were killing each other, Nehru and Liaquat Ali of Pakistan got together and they said, we are going to protect and safeguard each other's minorities. So we know what Pakistan did to its minorities. We, on the other hand, created Waqf boards and Hajj committees and funded madrasas to our own peril. But CAA's opposition is a vile and evil thing, and not out of ignorance. It's a very planned, meticulous opposition to CAA. So the notification you were talking about is the notification that we demanded of Rajnath Singh ji in 2016. I think November, he gave us this notification that 16 districts of India, where these refugees are in a huge number, they can grant citizenship. It's a very big thing, Richa. For a Pakistani Hindu refugee to go to Delhi, नॉर्थ ब्लॉक में एंट्री नहीं होती है भाई. वहां पर वो मशीन गन लिए जो बंदे खड़े रहते हैं, वहां पर पाकिस्तानी हिंदू की भाषा नहीं समझता, इनको हिंदी लिखना नहीं आता, अंग्रेजी लिखना नहीं आता, टूटी फूटी उर्दू में ये लोग काम चलाते हैं. सो द थिंग इज कि टू ग्रांट द डिस्ट्रिक्ट कलेक्टर पावर ऑफ सिटीजनशिप वाज अ गेम चेंजर. एंड नाउ the MHA has added 13 districts to those 16 districts, out of which 5 are in Rajasthan alone, where there is a sizable population of Pakistani Hindus. But this is not the CAA being implemented. This is on the 1955 Citizenship Act, which the government of India has already acted. We are at the neck of this government कि भाई आप CAA implement क्यों नहीं कर रहे हैं. Yes, we know they have battled a huge pandemic here and they have battled it brilliantly. All hats off to Modi ji and Shah and Yogi ji and all these people. As a doctor, I can tell you, I was amazed and pleasantly surprised when India developed a vaccine. It was not a joke. It was a very big milestone in the course of the civic history, and it was Modi ji's spiritual and his pushed to the scientific community of this land that go do some research, make a vaccine. But CAA is yet to become a reality.
Thank you, Amiji.
I hope that answers your question on the notification.
Absolutely. And I think Ravinderji, you have a question. Your hand is raised.
I have actually a comment and a question. My two comments. First is that related to the fact that Omendraji mentioned that this is a low-level jihad or low-level genocide. I completely disagree with that. There are two major genocides which have happened in India right now in front of our eyes. One was in 1990. It was a large-scale genocide, and nothing happened in India. Number two, it's happening in Bengal right now as we speak. Large-scale genocide, 150,000 people have been thrown out, and nothing has happened in India. So to think that if it is large-scale, Indian Hindus will wake up and they will do anything, nothing will happen. It will be buried under the and news will not come through. Most people will not even know about it. So that is number one. Number two is you made a very harsh comment about having more children, asking your children to have more children. I have done it asked by my son. I made a mistake that I didn't have that. I asked my son, and he's completely convinced about it, both he and his wife, that they will have at least 3 children, or preferably 4 children. This is it is something which we need to do, and some children will agree, some will not agree. But the question is, they have to be shown the whole historical aspect of what is going on. So therefore, I don't think this should be called the most stupid suggestion, because it is very, very important for our survival. If we put any kind of a law, for example, family planning law, everybody equal, same law, etc., it will only impact Hindus. It will not impact Muslims. They are not going to act on it. They are not going to. They don't give two hoots about it. Hindus will
Absolutely.
Therefore, I think it's a bad idea to put that law. On the other hand, the encouragement should be asked. I should say, actually, this notion of that India doesn't have enough land to create food. I work in that land in this area now, not in the past. And I can tell you, India can produce 600% more food on the land which it has. Actually, maybe even more. And already it has about 15 to 20% more food grains which it produces than it needs. So that is not an issue. This myth should be removed. There are another techniques and doing it. Thing which I think on the solution side, which I think is that it needs to be emphasized to the Hindu leadership, actually, that this notion of what was 1956 or 55 law, which was passed, that should be actually both the civic societies or the NGOs, etc. Papers need to be written on it. What's called conferences held, and it needs to be a popular thing in the media. There is a complete genocide happening in Pakistan and in India too. It is not only in Pakistan. Therefore, the laws have to be amended. Otherwise, people will have to be woken up so that they come in the streets. If we don't do that, we are dead. So the papers have to be written, conferences have to be held, and these have to be covered so that the public information and a consensus is developed that what we need to do, because there is a serious problem which we are facing. Thank you.
Ravinderji. I think you are from Kashmir, and you have you know the ground reality more than most.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm very aware of what they do and what they don't do. I don't trust any of them.
Omiji.
Yeah, I want to respond to Ravinderji, and that's my hat off to this guy. He knows everything. He's absolutely right when he says that population control law will only damage Hindus. He's absolutely right, bang on. I did not make a harsh comment on the Hindu community per se. My comment was in the context of the practical and the numbers of the scale of the conflict that we see. When I say that 3 crore It's a huge number. It's like बहुत सी कंट्रियों की तो आबादी 3 करोड़ नहीं है यार यूरोप के अंदर. Saudi Arabia की आबादी. When I say that 1 crore Hindus of Pakistan and 2 crore of Bangladesh need to be imported by implementing the CAA meticulously, that is a individually, maybe I'm able to convince my son that he produces more children. So my thing was that on a civilizational plane, the leadership cannot come up with this kind of solutions. The solutions that the leadership has to offer us have to be very huge on scale, very meticulously thought out. That was deliberated, and my hat off to you that you could convince your son to produce more
that
Hindus.
there has to be a general amnesty given to the Hindus and Christians, Hindus and the Sikhs, etc., of these regions, so that they can come easily to India. This amnesty granting
the borders should be opened. The borders should be
absolutely opened. That's what I mean. Amnesty has to be granted. The way US does it for Christians, India has to give this amnesty and have a worldwide campaign that this has been done because there is a complete genocide. World, I can tell you that world doesn't care about Hindus. This is very important because this is right from the scriptures. We are pagans and we are idol worshippers. Therefore, we are not to be cared about. We anyway are supposed to go to hell. So I don't think we should depend on the world.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Ravindraji, for your comments. I think, that, we need to have a better presence in the United Nations as well. Adityanji, namaste, and I think you have a question. Please go ahead. Adityanji.
You're on mute.
Adityanji, we can't hear you somehow. Adityanji, I'll have Amit Bhatt ask the question because somehow we can't hear you. We still can't hear you. Amit Bhatt, can you ask your question?
Sure. Thanks for the great presentation, Omendraji. It really opened my eyes, at least. I knew a little bit about it, but got to know a lot more. So coming to the point, what is the call to action that you propose? That didn't come to me clearly. I know we talked about educating the Hindus, getting the information out, but what is the maybe 1, 2, 3 call to action that you propose for all of us? Second, how is the global Hindu diaspora? This is the US group, but few people that too among us. How are you across the globe getting together everyone? Are you trying to get everyone on the same page to build a consensus and build that strength? And third is regarding getting, there are Christian people also who are getting persecuted in in Pakistan. So is there any area, you're trying up with those to bring those, because they have a voice, especially in international forum. People listen to them because we know why. So what are your thoughts?
I'll come to the first question in the end because I want to leave you with that thought. I'll first address this Christian thing. It was a master stroke by Modi ji and Amit Shah, and a lot of right-wing Hindus opposed him. Christians ko kaun la rahe ho, conversions, ye wo. Are bhai mere, these are Valmikis who converted. These are all Hindus who converted to Christianity in this false hope that they will get visas to the Western world and whatever, and the Christian community will save them. Let me tell you, the paralysis in the Christian leadership is worse than Hindu leadership. At least हम लोग कुछ बात तो कर रहे हैं. हमारे इसी CAA अपने आप में लाना, राम मंदिर का निर्माण होना, हम लोग जब हो जाता है उस चीज को तो उसको वैल्यू नहीं करते हैं. Hindu leadership is still in the ICU, but it is very much breathing, and there's a very good chance that they'll be out of ICU. Christian leadership is on ventilator, and the way things are going, it's all downhill. That's why I mentioned the Armenian defeat and the killing of Armenian Christians, and which Christian community came to their aid. Syrian Christians were exterminated right in front of us in 24/7 television era. So Pakistani Christians are languishing in huge suffering, and I would say it's opportunity for Hindus to bring them to Bharat, remind them of their roots, and bring them to Ghar Wapsi and add them to your numbers. It's a huge number, and also a global alliance between Hindus and Christians and Jews and Buddhists has to be happening. That this is the kind of vile and hideous genocide happening right under our noses, and we need the Christian leadership to ally with the Hindu leadership. That on that particular scale, we can have our difference of opinion, and we are pagans for them, and all that is good. But I have myself interacted, and Richa will endorse this, that there are a lot of Christians and a lot of Jews who are sympathetic to the Pakistani cause, and they voice our concerns, and that's the answering of your last point. The second point is, did I reach to the global Hindu community? Yes, we are active in Australia. Nimittekam is a chapter in Canada. We have a presence in Amsterdam. Sheetalji is working there, and we want to actually the future plan of Nimittekam is to get the refugees from Pakistan into the United States or the Western nation, whichever is open, Australia. We are actively working on that. The global Hindu leadership is as good or as bad as the local Indian Hindu leadership. When you get a statement like this, that Bharat mein janne wala har vyakti Hindu hai, I don't know what to say. वो वाली बात है कि भाई मैं आपको अपना भाई मान रहा हूं, पर आप मुझे भाई मानो तो भाईचारा चलेगा ना। अगर मैं आपके लिए चारा हूं और आप मेरे लिए भाई हो, तो फिर वो भाईचारा नहीं हुआ, फिर मैं चारा हो गया आपके लिए। आई एम फॉडर फॉर यू। It's a very basic thing, it's not a spiritual insight, or it's not something which needs a lot of intellectual sharpening. If peace is always a contract between two equals, the surest way of avoiding a war is to be ready to go to war always. कि तू मेरी 1 इंच जमीन लेके देख, जूते पड़ेंगे तेरे। हम जूते मारने को आतुर नहीं है, लेकिन अगर कोई हमारी जमीन लेने को आतुर है, तो लीडरशिप हिंदुओं की बहुत कंफ्यूज और बहुत बचकानी है। जैसा कि मैंने आपको निवेदन किया था कि इट टुक अस 7 years to convince them that you cannot keep them in Pakistan. I remember 5 years ago, I was in New Jersey giving a lecture. There were 100 odd Hindus listening to me. Everybody was crying when, by the time I finished my lecture, one joker gets up and says, I will not name the organization, that I'm from that organization, and we believe that Hindus, wherever they are staying, they should be empowered there. I said, are you a retard to think that Hindus can be saved in Pakistan?
Yeah,
And the European Union Parliament Committee is telling you that 3 Hindu girls are being picked every day. 7 years, Amitji, it took us to convince these people that for God's sake, pass the Citizenship Amendment Act. For God's sake, give them a line of a hope that they can come back. Imagine the pain of a Pakistani Hindu boss. We have completely forsaken them. So, when you talked about the leadership, yes, we are working with them. But as I began my talk, I said, now it's up to Amit. Amit is the leader. Omendra Ratnu, I'm a middle-class surgeon, just like any of you, boss, making my ends meet, EMIs, my loans, my installments, mortgages, everything. I'm not supposed to be doing this. But trust me, and Richa knows this, if I don't do this, this will sink. This whole issue will sink. We can't afford it. So all of us have to become leaders in our own rights. That's thing. Number one, you said 1, 2, 3, 4, what needs to be done? Number 1 and number 2 and number 3, I think till number 10 is funding. We are right now in consultation with Ashok Karmakarji, who is a human rights lawyer and immigration lawyer. Very kindly, he has consented that he will work pro bono for us. But we need to do the paperwork at least. He said that we have to hire lobbying firms so that Pakistani Hindus and Bangladeshi Hindus can be granted refugee status by the senators and by the Senate of the US. That's not that. It's beyond my paycheck. We need millions of dollars to do that, right? So then, if you see, I'll tell you briefly in a minute. I'll tell you the journey of Nimittekam, our NGO. We started, me and my friend Jai Ahuja, who's like a brother to me. We started Nimittekam in 2016 with our own money. Today, where Nimittekam stands, the office in Jaipur is 60 lakh rupees of worth land donated by Jai Ahuja. Half of my day, every day, goes in sorting day-to-day running of Nimittekam. My competitors in my profession have labeled me as a person who has given up his medical practice and who lives only for Hinduism. Many of my patients come and tell me, do you, I mean, can I trust you? Are you still into medical profession, or you are into like too much into Hinduism? My own family doubts me. That's the cost we have paid for it. But it's a worthy cost, because when a man has to choose his path, we got to do what we got to do. In 2016, when we started with our own money, and I started reaching out to fellow Hindus globally, and I am overjoyed and I'm so proud to share this with you, that Hindus responded to us. And by 2019 December, we have put the whole income and expenditure detail on our website. The average money we got was 1 lakh rupees a month. Now we are getting good money, because things are getting scaled up as people are noticing us and attaching themselves with us. But till December 2019, we got 1 lakh rupees a month as dharmansh. I call it dharmansh. Do you know how many Hindus we saved in Pakistan? 10,000. 10,000 Hindus were taken out of Pakistan, and 3,600 citizenships have been given. The result is that the majority of the Hindu community in Pakistan is aware of our work. They say, no, yeah, there is a mad doctor and there is a guy called Ahuja who's working for us. They care for us. We get calls every day. Every day we get a call. We sort out whatever we can with our limited resources. But what the global community has to do is to take up the issue, understand I would not say nuances, it's too much. I mean, the basics of CAA, at least understand the basics of what Indian Citizenship Act is and what CAA is. And I humbly submit to you, CAA is a civilizational step taken by Modi ji, which idiotic Hindus who abuse him are not understanding that what big risk he took in passing the CAA. And we are losing that opportunity by letting this whole issue be bogged down in minor issues. Number one, awareness. Number two, give $10, $20, $50, $100, whatever your family budget allows you. Give that small amount of money and get me 10 donors on your guarantee. They have not heard me. You have heard me. You go and tell them that this man has delivered. This is his website. These are the expenditure and the income accounts pasted on my website. These are the Pakistani Hindus. You can come to Jaipur and Jodhpur whenever you feel like. Meet these people. How we take care of them. How. And these are, for you, it will be a spiritual experience to meet these people. I'm telling you. You can never understand. I never understood sitting in my air-conditioned, cozy comfort, what it is to be what it means to be a Hindu and give up everything for it. They give up everything, boss.
No, I've seen
their relatives, their property, their gold. हमारे ऐसे लोग हैं यार, मकान है इनके, गाड़ियां पाकिस्तान में, ये सब कुछ छोड़ के आ जाते हैं एक हिंदू बनने रहने के लिए.
I've seen some of the videos.
This is
just to be able to keep a photo of a Devi Devta in their mandir just for safeguarding that, they've left everything just to hold that and keep.
That's it. So we need this money now from the Hindu community to hire lobbying firms so that we can get a refugee status for Pakistani Hindus. So we can take 300, 400 out of them, and then we can start a chain. We need money to hire lobbies in Australia. We need money to hire lobby in the European Union, where we can stop pushing these Hindus. Let us see how things work out.
And
One more thing.
Education and
Education of whom? Like what?
Education of the Hindu, these kids, because tomorrow from where they come out, it will be one time. It's like you teach a person to fish. You know, help him lifetime. So they will,
that is happening.
Nimittekam is running a lot of projects on
that is happening.
The Dalit project and the school and things like that. So thank you, Omiji, for that answer, detailed answer. I think we have a lot of questions. I don't know if Paroji is still on. I think she had raised her hand.
Yeah.
Are you there?
I'm here, Jaji.
Okay, so because we have a little time, but many questions. So I think we should quickly ask questions, quick answers, and then try to address all of them.
Sure. So first of all, thank you to Omendra ji for doing the work that you're doing. And of course, I always share with anybody that I meet that this need right now for any Hindu to do is really contribute funds. If you can't do anything else, that low level of consistent funding of a variety of Hindu projects is needed. I wanted to ask whether there's a possibility that the group would be able to prepare a slide deck that we can put pressure on our Indian origin politicians in America, where we can take a delegation and say, hey, you have to represent us. That's one. And another perspective is there any way to build up a groundswell to have an Aliyah type of movement for Hindus like the Jews have for Israel, where any Jew has the right of return to the land of Israel? Is there any way to initiate a movement like that? So that's all.
Well, to answer your first question, definitely that's the job of the Hindu community in US to reach out to Indian origin senators. I was talking the other day to Richa that we should reach out to Tulsi Gabbard, and I would say start making inroads, and 3 or 4 months down the line, around September, October, November, I intend to come to the US with 2 Pakistani Hindus and 2 Pakistani Sardars. I intend to bring them to the United States senators, the State Department, and let them listen their story from their own mouths, what they are enduring, what they are facing. If you can grant us and arrange for an audience with these people, that will be great. I can tell you one very small thing that about 4 years ago, I went to the State Department, and I'm a puny, nobody knows me, and I'm not a person who has a political tag with him or somebody big NGO. I'm a simple doctor. Yet the Hindu American Foundation arranged my meeting with the State Department, and there were these 2 ladies who, I don't know, some junior officer or senior officer. They listened me out for 1.5 hours. They were very sympathetic to the cause of Pakistani Hindus. And our meeting happened in November, and in January, Pakistan was put in the religious watch list. So things in the US, they are honest people. They work. If they will take cognizance. Definitely, Hindu community in America should get very active. I'm telling you, the crisis of Hindus is the leadership. We do not have leadership who even understand the problem, who have the vision to take us through these very, very tricky times. And leadership is everything. So middle-class Hindus like you and me have to join hands. Thank Shiva, there is internet that we can at least connect with each other. Without the internet, we didn't have a chance in front of this murderous mafia. Now we have a fighting chance. Let's make the best out of it. The second question was how to make a movement out of it. I think CAA is a movement enough. People have to take their chances. People have to take their awareness to the different level that Hindus and Pakistan and Bangladesh are being killed, raped, murdered like this in broad daylight. CAA has done its job. It's us, it's we Hindus who have failed to take cognizance because we haven't educated ourselves. And the most idiotic belief that politics, मुझे politics में कोई interest नहीं है, तो फिर वो then you pay the price of not being interested. We have to be very politically active. We have to be opinionated. We have to be thorough with our facts. And then this groundswell of Hindus will happen, which doesn't need to be a groundswell, but a minimum level of awareness. Just like we defeated the motion in Chicago, we should be able to defeat every anti-CAA motion in the US.
Right, Omendra. I think that is probably happening in the sense that, at least right now, there is a lull in the CAA resolutions or anything like that. I think Padmaji has the next question. Please go ahead.
Namaste. Namaste, everyone. Namaste, Omendra ji. I'm sorry I came about 15-20 minutes late. I had another meeting before. But first off, I want to say I come from the South India, so I don't know much about ground, what happens in Rajasthan or North India. But I have one question, but also a couple of comments. I think Rabindra ji was sort of something similar to that, what he said, that okay, I'll put my question first. How do we make sure, because I know that on the Bangladesh side, West Bengal, a lot of Bangladeshi Muslims have already infiltrated, even before CAA, into West Bengal and are voting. 30% of West Bengal population is now, and illegally they are voting. And I even heard that the Bangladesh Muslim have even come to Kerala and married a local woman. And they have no citizenship status. They're basically illegal immigrants. How do we make sure the people who are coming from Pakistan are genuine Hindus and not crypto? We hear a lot of love jihad, like a guy, Ahmad, changes his name to Anil and then, marries. How do we make sure that these crypto people are not coming? That was my first, my question. And my comment is that one thing I have to say is that us alliance with Christians, with Jews is different because our Dharmacharyas have done that. Swami Dayananda Saraswati did with all the Dharmacharya Sabha with Jewish rabbis in 2007 and 2008. Because Jewish is okay because they're not proselytizing, but with Christians, I have to be very, very careful because I can tell you one thing. Ramalingam his right hand was slaughtered in Tamil Nadu by Islamists. I could read about it only in Indian newspapers just 2-3 years ago. And the entire thing was on YouTube, on social media. But same thing, Kerala professor, a Catholic professor, his left hand or right hand was chopped by the Islamist. He survived. He is writing books. I read about him in Huffington Post. So if something happens to the Hindu, just like Rabindra said, we are pagans, we are heathens. The West mainstream media will never talk about us. But if it happens to a Christian, you will see it in Huffington Post, New York Post, Washington Times. So us alliance with Christians, I don't think it will give any benefit. That's just my humble opinion, because I see what is happening in NPR, mainstream media. Not anything happened to Hindu, they will not report. But if it happens to Christian, it will become big news. Pope will comment about it, everything, some, church getting burnt on Easter Day, bomb, that will come, headline news. One single Christian is hurt, it will come headline news. But 50 Hindus are hurt, it will never.
But Najib, so your question is about, is it about this alliance?
No, I got a question.
Okay.
So to answer her question, see, every Pakistani Hindu who's coming to Bharat is first of all sponsored by an Indian citizen. That is why we are after the life of this government कि आप पहले CAA को activate करिए, because CAA will grant 50,000 Pakistani refugees citizenship in one go. That means we can take out 50,000 Pakistani Hindus more. These Indian Pakistani Hindus getting citizenship, sponsoring their family members. there are that's what Nimittekam does actually, to take the Pakistani Hindu refugees to the local police station, to the IB, to the Intelligence Bureau, and they get these registered with the FRRO office, and then getting them long-term visas. So I can very, very assuredly and very proudly tell you that not a single Pakistani Hindu is an illegal refugee, and there is no question that a Pakistani Muslim can masquerade or feign as a Hindu and get entry into Bharat, because the vetting happens at the Indian embassy level in Rawalpindi. Then the Intelligence Bureau at Delhi vets them. At least Nimittekam, when it is involved, because see, the procedure is pretty simple. If I have to bring a Pakistani Hindu into Bharat, suppose I sponsor him, and if he does anything anti-national, if he is a Muslim and I have sponsored him, if he does some terrorist act, I will be apprehended. So no Pakistani Hindu comes here without a sponsorship by a local Indian citizen. So rest assured, that is not going to happen. What happened in Bangladesh? See, Bangladesh is also not happening because of any laxity of the Indian or the Hindu people. It is happening because of the nature of the border. It is porous. It is partly watery, marshes, and people can easily come in and go out. And the crooks of the left, led by Jyoti Basu, who systematically killed our people in Bangladesh and got these Bangladeshi refugees. So Bangladesh story is entirely different from Pakistan. And to your second question, that about alliance with Christian leadership, I understand it's a complicated scenario. In India, the Christians are in alliance with Islamists, but I see a different, I hope that the situation globally is a bit different. In any case, 30 to 40% of the US has gone atheist. So we can at least have a reach out to the white community, if not Christian community. The whole world will, anybody who listens to this, that a teenage girl is being kidnapped from her parents and being raped by an entire village and then converted to Islam. The disgust with Islam is universal and it's global. So we must tap on that and align with anybody who's sympathetic to the cause. If you have your opinion about Christian leadership, I'm not sure about the Christian leadership of the West, but no harm trying. Yes, in India, the Christian leadership is pathetic. They are in bed with the Islamists and they are worthless. No alliance is possible with them.
Thank you.
Okay. I think Dityanji, I'm hoping.
Let me try if you can hear me. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I must thank you, Dr. Ratnu, for an excellent presentation. I also bow to you for your level of commitment. Couple of suggestions.
Yes.
You know, it's a very complex problem. Mm-hmm. And complex problems require multidimensional solutions.
True.
It is like, you know, 6 blind men describing an elephant.
True.
And I think all of us are in the same situation.
True.
And Hindus being somewhat emotional and argumentative, we spend a lot of time arguing amongst ourselves.
True.
And I think we need to curtail that tendency. In that sense, I'm reminded of Ronald Reagan, who gave the 11th commandment: thou shalt not criticize a Republican openly. And I am telling you, thou shalt not criticize a Hindu openly.
True.
Build up alliances. There may be some differences in opinion, differences in short-term tactics, but do not criticize that person. All of us are doing an ant thing. You know what a chipmunk did with Ram Setu. You know, we are contributing in our own ways, and everyone needs to be encouraged. And I think we should not have harsh opinions of people who have different opinions. And even at organizational level, I'm seeing that some of the Hindu organizations in the United States are criticizing each other unnecessarily, you know, sort of giving bad names and things like that. Unless we do alliance building in the pan-international Hindu community, we should not be even talking about, building up alliance with Christians who are, again, devour us. I would suggest that even in India, you build up alliances with organizations like Agniveer, Arya Samaj. These are the people who believe in Shuddhi, and your responses will be local. Each state has a different problem. Ravindraji very eloquently told you that there was a genocide. What is going on in West Bengal is a genocide. So we have to, modify the strategy according to the local situation. I'm all for, building up alliances and all that sort of thing, not only in the, so-called Western democratic countries. Also, we need to, let's say, put some organizations in the Middle East, in the Islamic countries. The migrant Hindus there are suffering. There's no issue about it. So we need to look at a wider level of problems we as a community are facing. I can tell you, in the so-called moderate Muslim democracy of Malaysia, there's a religious apartheid going on. And the population, demographic share of Hindus is declining, not because they are not producing children, but because they are being converted by state pressure. So each place has its own problems. And I think no possible solution is a bad solution, which also includes maybe having more children. For people who are in reproductive age group, yes, having more children is one of the options. So let's not, ridicule each other. Let's understand each other's point of view. You are doing great amount of work. Hats off to you. I'll be happy to work with you on certain other issues, human rights issues and things like that. But let's work together and build up alliance.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Aditya. Umiji, I might just, introduce the fact that Adityanji is the president and chairperson of the ICHRRF, the International Commission for Human Rights and Religious Freedom. So I think it's a great collaborative opportunity, the cause.
No, I hope he can get us the refugee, help us get the refugee status for Pakistani Hindus in the United States.
Actually, that may be a good opportunity.
We can work with you. I can send you my telephone number.
Please do that, sir. I would love to work with you. Yeah, we need all the help with this.
I'm also working on that with the Omiji, so we can. I'll definitely reach out to you.
Okay. So yeah, Richa is our lifesaver. One person can make so much difference. That's the whole thing.
Thank you, Omiji. Are you commenting on this question, or should we take the next question? I think Virendraji had or Pradeep Menon. Pradeep Menon, you have a question? I think we'll take one last question because we are sort of running out of time. Any more questions, please put in the chat box.
Sure. Good morning, good evening. I'm calling from Singapore, so it's good morning. Omiji, wonderful presentation, greatly enlightening. Can't thank you enough for the work you have been doing and the compassion and commitment you have shown. Really, it's the likes of you, your ilk, that is saving not just our culture and our religion, but our souls as well. Really can't thank you enough. I know I can relate to the sacrifices you're making. Please be known that they will all come back to you in one form or another. God bless you. I don't have any questions as such, but it's more, actually I do have a question. I'm not sure where CAA stands right now because there's been a lull. There's been a lot of less furor about it, which is good. But at the same time, there's also less news about whether it is in implementation. Is it active? What is happening? Maybe you can enlighten us about it. I just had one quick comment also. There was a wonderful person from the audience, Padmaji, who said about, not engaging with the Christian organizations because they're not interested. I think, yes, that is true. But having said that, we need all the strength we can get. And I think if we keep beating on the door, they will relent, because my roots go back are from Kerala, and I can see the Christians there who used to go hand in hand with the fundamental Islamists are now starting to realize that their own religion and their own community is at grave risk, that the Islamists are not targeting just the Hindus, they're targeting the Christians as well. And many of these people are now starting to realize their mistake and slowly come to our side. Very slow, but it's happening. And I think you need them, because this cannot seem to be just a fight by Hindus for Hindus only. This is a fight for religious freedom. This is a fight for maintaining religious sanctity for all minorities. And it's got to be a concerted effort. And
Thank
if
you
the
so much,
Christians in India,
Pradeep ji, because I think we have 2 more
just one
minutes.
last thing, if the Indians in India, Christians in India stand up, the Western world will start supporting. Thank you.
Yeah, to answer your question, where we stand with the CAA, I wish I knew the answer. But because we have been seeking appointment from the Home Minister and Deputy Home Minister and the people of MHA for the past 2 months. And because of the COVID second wave was really bad in our country. So there's all this hullabaloo about oxygen shortages and the remdesivir shortages, which is all lies, which are white lies. However, it was enough to put the government on the back foot. So we are going to wait for another 2 months. And once the summer heat is reduced, if the CAA is not implemented, then I and Jay intend to take 5,000 Pakistani Hindu refugees, 5,000 Pakistani Hindu refugees on a Padayatra from Jodhpur or Jaipur to Delhi. And we'll collect 1 lakh Pakistani Hindu refugees in Delhi. Whatever be the money involved, I'll beg it from the global Hindu community. I'll sell my property, whatever it needs to be done, it takes, because CAA cannot be allowed to be diluted. So in a way, I'm putting this government on the notice that if in the next 2-3 months CAA is not implemented, then we are hitting the streets. If they can create the Shaheen Bags, we can create our own Ramlila Maidans. That's the plan. As far as Christian Alliance is concerned, I think it should be done on a case-to-case basis. If American Christians are, my thing about Christian Alliance was with the overseas Christians communities, because they would be salivating at the prospect of saving 5 million Christians of Pakistan and getting a foothold in India. And in Rajasthan, there are no Christian conversion activities, not very significant. So they would love to get the foothold in Rajasthan and all that, and we'll be guarded about that. See, Christianity per se, I know in South India people get very itchy and very jerky about it. But if you ask me, as a ground worker and as a thinker, as a person who has been thinking about Hindu survival for the past 2 decades, Christianity doesn't pose an existential threat to Sanatan Dharma, because it doesn't come with the option of violence to the table. It is the jihadis who are an existential threat to Sanatan Dharma. So we are weak right now. We cannot take on 2 enemies. We need to ally with the Christians over the world. And that is why it was a master stroke by Modi ji to include Christians into the CAA. Thank Shiva, he did that. We need these 5 million Christians to be taken out. And alliance with Christian community, the Christian leadership, has to be on a case-to-case basis. Where they want to align with us, we must welcome them. We should not be dogmatic in this. Ye to aise hote hain, wo to waise hote hain. If there is somebody coming to us with an open mind, we should align, because the bigger enemy is jihad.
A quick comment on this. One should keep in mind that the lots of leadership in the Christian community in India, like I can name quite a few. Rajiv Malhotra has named several of them. They are actually getting funded from the US and other Christian organizations. And the target is basically to put India on a notice because they think the conversion is getting hampered by the Modi government. So one has to be careful about that. And the second note is that among Hindus itself, there are actually the leftist Hindus and other Hindus who are also who target the Hindu organization and Hindu community for such issues. And they have been very active in US also, basically supporting the anti-CAA rallies and things like that. So one has to be, because we have problems within the community, so one has to be very careful about it, who we work with and who we don't work with.
That's why I said case to case basis.
Yeah.
One's history, जिसका इतिहास है कि उसने हमारे लिए काम किया है, हम उसके साथ अलायंस करेंगे. जिसका इतिहास है कि उसने हमारे साथ धोखा दिया, तो to hell with him.
Absolutely. I think we've sort of exhausted our time, gone a little bit over. I think, but it was a very intense and nice discussion. Thank you so much, Omiji, as usual. I have shared my email address, which I use for these communications. It is chimar.caa@gmail.com. Okay?
One last thing, Richa ji, if you don't mind. I follow US politics quite a bit. I hate to sound like a pessimist, but it's very commonly said here in the US that the liberal left and the Christian right are united in one thing, which is to throw the Hindus under the bus. So I hate to sound like a pessimist, but I follow US politics quite a bit. So that's my humble opinion. I'm not opposing anybody. I'm very much with Omendra ji. I'm just learning so much about Bangladesh and so much about Pakistan. I mean, I only knew Pakistan was a villain, but a lot of things I'm learning these days, thanks to Richa ji's seminars and everything. But that's my impression. You can ask a lot of people here. They don't care one bit for the Hindus, that I can tell. We can form alliance with anyone, but they don't care one bit for the Hindus.
Maji, thank you for your comments. And yeah, I think, I think eventually we will get there. What Omiji said so many times that, there has to be a political awakening and outreach from our side as well, which I think slowly, whenever it is happening, whenever we're reaching out to the community or to the political leadership, we have enough financial clout, we have enough numbers at this time to make our presence felt. So, at this time, for example, the refugee program that Biden has released, I think if we all start working towards at least getting recognition of this Pakistani issue, refugee issue, or the persecution issue in the Biden administration, that could be, we have to go through the government and the administrative rules and policies rather than, going through more of a religious association. I think that those alliances may or may not work, but I think it's a more administrative and policy based issue. Omiji, one last 1 minute comment.
Yeah, one last comment before I leave. This whole alliance with Christians and Jews is a very, very remote possibility. Please do not waste your time and energy on this. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't happen, nobody's dying because of lack of it. The critical thing that has to happen is that every Hindu who's listening to this plight of Pakistani Hindus tells this to 10 fellow Hindus. And even more critical than that is that he gives 10 to 20, 30, $50, whatever he gives as tip in a restaurant. Whatever he thinks he can throw the money. Don't throw that money, give it to us. Because money is the crucial thing. I cannot go into the numbers here because of the reasons of safety, my own safety. So someday we will have a seminar where we can talk about the numbers that are being put into by jihadis and by missionaries and how to counter them. In a nutshell, I can say that it comes to funding. If Hindus do not collect their money and a single source, and millions of dollars to hire lobbying firms to purchase loyalties, so to say, these 3 crore Hindus will be lost in the next 10 years. 3 crore Hindus will be lost and they'll become our enemies. Thank you so much for this patient hearing and the opportunity to voice my thoughts.
Thank you so much, Omiji, for a very riveting presentation. Thank you everyone for the participation. And I have put out all the donation links.
Did you put the
Please donate.
Nimittekam.org? Did you put the website? Okay.
Yes, Somiji, I did.
And please connect me to the gentleman who from the
Absolutely.
Human
And
Commission.
Vijayendra ji, I'll make sure your question is answered too later. So thank you so much. Namaste to everybody.